It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Look at this. Look at this. People actually believe that there is a car floating around out in space.
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake.
This is live on the air, okay? I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. You see the Earth? Okay, I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Levels, and I'm going to bring the levels up. Uh-oh. What is that? Why is there a square box around the Earth?
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
So let's use this model of the Earth. And let's enlist the help of a friend, Taxi. You might know her.
Next segment, I'm going to show you how NASA grabs objects in 3D space, rotates them around, manipulates them. They can do this with water, with cloth, anything. And the cool thing about it is we can take what they're doing, what they're seeing with their contact virtual reality augmented lenses and put that on a separate video layer live. Okay, I have a lot of Tim Peak screw-ups, but this one here, the system glitches, the software does not track his hand properly, and Tim slips his hand underneath his other fingers, which is tightly holding onto the mic, which would be impossible.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake.
Just another example of NASA faking space. Let's take a look here at this supposed image of Jupiter. Nothing more than CGI fakery. The supposed auroras. Again, at NASA's official website, where it states Hubble captures vivid auroras in Jupiter's atmosphere. Here's the problem. The date of June 30th, 2016. Now take a look at this. Another so-called official image of Jupiter. This one's from back in 2014. You see the problem here? Now let's take a closer look at the supposed two images provided from NASA of Jupiter. All the clouds are in the same exact position. Here's a side-by-side. People can't see what's taking place here with NASA. Nothing more than fakery. I mean, give me a break. This is a complete insult. You have a brain in your head.
Look like you're in a studio, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
I don't know. We're going to have to do something for you.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Watch this. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
Hi, I'm Noah. Can you do a somersault right now?
Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair? See the hair?
And they just start making stuff up.
Yeah.
Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Now sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it comes. It's either from sweat or from the cooling garments, and that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
In 1986, the shuttle Challenger exploded about 74 seconds after takeoff, killing all 7 astronauts inside. Or did it? It turns out that 6 of the 7 are still alive and kicking today. Ellison Onizuka claims to be his identical twin brother, Claude. Yeah, I've got an identical twin brother, Claude, too. The Challenger pilot, Mickey Smith, hasn't even bothered changing his name. He's now Professor Michael J. Smith of University of Wisconsin. Now, Krista McAuliffe was a bit of a sneaky one. She was the Challenger payload specialist, quite famous for being a teacher. It turns out during her astronaut days she was using her middle name, Krista, and now she goes by her first name, Sharon. The Challenger commander, Francis Richard Scobie, is now Dick Scobie, which sounds like a rather unpleasant disease. Judith Resnick, the Challenger mission specialist, again hasn't even bothered changing her name. She's a professor at Yale Law. And finally, Ronald McNair, another Challenger mission specialist, claims to be his identical twin brother, Carl McNair. What are the odds?
So there I was, just minding my own business, looking at Google Earth, and this big snow-covered monstrosity is staring me in the face like, why is that covered in snow? So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Well, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. The only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it... What the... Yeah. So, oh, I got another truck. Oh yeah, it says NASA. What's that say? Mars Project? I think I found out where Mars is, guys.
At some point in the future, we're going to look back and say, how did we do it without space?
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
There's a small problem with going to the moon, and inch by inch, NASA is leaking out that they know that there's a problem there. It's called the Van Allen belts, high radiation belts of charged particles around Earth, and we don't know how to get through them, they say. Well, isn't that interesting, because there sure didn't seem to be a problem back in 1969.
The moon landing stopped in 1972 and we haven't been back. We haven't been beyond the Van Allen belts.
NASA admitted that it had lost
lost the original footage of man's first steps on the moon.
To YouTube and watch A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. It contains newly discovered evidence, which is part of the missing tapes, of outtakes from the first mission to the moon, of them falsifying a shot of being halfway to the moon.
For NASA to come out and say that all the tapes were erased, I mean, it's incredible. Geraldo, this isn't just one tape. This is rooms of tape labeled Apollo 11 moon landing. Someone had to physically go and erase it. It's very challenging to try to prove we landed on the moon, and it shouldn't be challenging. The tape should be there. There should be plenty of evidence.
I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is proof, man. It's the picture's right there. It's landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. People who believe they saw the landing on the moon because they heard it on the radio.
Here's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft.
Did you see it in the background? There was a guy in the background, man. I'm not kidding you. You can't deny that that's someone in the background. There's a guy moving in the background.
And I'll tell you, just if nothing else, here's why you can tell they're not fake. Just to create the paperwork, that amount of paperwork would make faking it prohibitively expensive. No one could afford to generate that much documentation.
All of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
My research of the last year has led me to the conclusion that not even low Earth orbit is possible, that the International Space Station is a hoax, and all manned space travel is fake. First though, let's have a look at the International Space Station. I want to talk about some of the anomalies I see there. For the inside of the International Space Station, there are a couple of zero-gravity tricks that they use to fake it. The first is they have a complete mock-up of the International Space Station built on the inside of an airplane. And that airplane does a bunch of rises and falls. It does an upside-down parabolic trajectory, and that simulates zero gravity. The other main way they simulate the zero gravity is with suspension in front of a blue screen. And they use that trick for extended periods of time, for longer than 45-second segments. But they can't move around as much. They can't do the acrobatic flips and rolls in the extended mode. So there's full motion mode where they can fully move around, and that's faked in a plane. And then there's suspended or extended mode where they're suspended by wires in front of a blue screen. They don't move around as much, but they can make the scene last for a longer period of time. The extended mode is much quieter than the full motion mode. In full motion mode, you can actually hear the sound of the jet engines, the engines of the airplane. In every single scene of full motion mode, in every segment of the International Space Station, you can hear this loud sound, the sound of jet engines. You could argue that it's the air conditioning system. Not even an office air conditioner is that loud. And why is there a loud sound in every segment of the International Space Station?
Mr. Armstrong, Bart Sibrel, ABC Digital. Wanted to give you the opportunity to swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon. Will you put your left hand on the Bible and swear to God that you walked on the moon? You have $5,000 cash. You can give it to charity if you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon.
Please
I have the tape.
That'd be fine.
Why don't you swear to... Why not? Why won't you do it?
The Earth supposedly 23.4 degrees on its axis. And that leaves you, of course, the occultic number, again, 66.6 degrees off. Well, Earth is supposedly orbiting around the Sun at 66,600 miles an hour.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
The first time I saw sonoluminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid.
And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters.
A tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid.
And you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye.
This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave, and this sound wave.
And God said, and God said.
And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
The film you're about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter. Everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound.
Try these on.
Look, you crazy mother.
Put these on.
Hey! Stay away from me!
I'm telling you, you dumb son of a...
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
Look!
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
places on the ocean's floor was only just discovered in the 1990s. I might agree as one of a handful of people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I have ever seen in the bottom of the ocean, and it was while filming for Blue Planet, it was in the Gulf of Mexico. I noticed there's something out in the distance, couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut that was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down it. We literally bounced off.
Fly those?
Absolutely. Do you get to fly to the edge?
Oh, yeah.
What's past there?
Don't know. We're not allowed to fly past that.
Let's go. It's against the rules, Jonas.
Who are you? The giver. When the elders need guidance, I provide wisdom using memories of the past. Our world was different. There was more.
More?
Much more. There is no way for me to prepare you for the truth.
cut my teeth on the back of an old church pew. I learned to walk in the ways of light and truth, and I was told not to speak till I was spoken to. I heard it preach what I should and I should not do, and the choir sang, tried to be a good boy, but I ain't a boy no more. I've seen some things that a man just can't ignore, and this world's gonna see what I'm standing for. I've kept my peace, but I can't hold my tongue anymore. You can't buy my silence, you can't steal my voice, you can't keep me quiet, I will break the noise. Try to beat me down, tell me to shut my mouth, but there's a time to speak, and the time is now.
And in case there are any conspiracy theorists out there, how would you prove to us that you're in zero gravity?
Welcome to the real world.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
If you were to go to NASA and download one of their photos of the Earth in the moon sky, and put it in Photoshop, okay, drop the saturation and the levels down, you'll see that the Earth has been pasted in, because you'll see a rectangular box around the Earth. It's all fraud, it's all fake. Pretty much everything NASA puts out is fraudulent.
Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. An error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
We, the legislature, recognize that there is a debate about whether the Earth is round or flat.
No.
And let's encourage critical thinking by saying there should be a legitimate debate between whether the Earth is round or flat. Because after all, any idiot can walk outside and look and see that it's flat.
To debate this?
All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care.
Around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
You know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
Corner of Liberty and Washington. Lower Manhattan.
World Trade Center. I'm going to crash the plane into the World Trade Center.
You cannot prove a lie.
Well, you say, for example, that there were no planes that hit the World Trade Center. Is that your contention? Well, did you see the videotape that the rest of us saw?
What you will see is a fake, a cartoon display.
You're suggesting if there's some kind of cartoon animation there, you're suggesting that the news media was a part of this.
Yes,
those pictures came from the news
No
media.
second flight. It was a bomb. Bombed in the building, not second plane. That was a bomb. Who said the second plane?
That's what we're told. The second plane. We saw it on television. We saw it on television. We saw it on television.
When? Skylar, I was medicated. I mean, I could have said the world was flat.
You know what I think? I think you accidentally told the truth.
This is the reunion island from the Isle of Mauritius. It's 149 miles away. It's a long, long, long way away. And once again, we can see the peak, but we can also see most of the rest down. This is quite clearly a very, very good observational day. Very clear, very calm. The highest peak on Reunion Island is 3,072 meters tall. It's just under 2 miles. 149 miles away, everything should be behind 2.8 miles of curvature. Should have curved way, way away. And again, it's not just the tops we can see much more. We can see a lot more, 2,000 feet or so of that.
One sort of other proof is there's a place in Bolivia called Salar de Uyuni, which is a salt flat. It's literally 100 miles wide one way and 80 miles across. And it's perfectly flat. And when it rains, literally you get an inch of water and it looks like a perfect mirror. Now, how does that happen on a sphere? Yeah, it shows you that, if you're one end of this salt flat, you can see perfectly clearly the other end 100 miles away. So it's just showing you that, the Earth is flat, and without the effect of the waves in the sea, you'll be able to see a whole lot further. Just recently, there was a case of a woman who was pregnant on a flight, and she was her waters broke on the flight, and I think it was from the Philippines to Los Angeles. They were flying across, and literally her waters broke, and they had to divert. They had to land. So instead of either going back to the Philippines or going on to Los Angeles, they landed in Alaska. Which again, if you look on the flat map, it's again a straight path.
Number 10. All the other planets and stars we've ever seen are round, and there's no reason to indicate that the Earth should be any different.
This isn't real. What is real?
Number 9. Time zones. Day and night happen at different times at different places on Earth. In fact, it's always day somewhere and night somewhere else.
Now, most people say, well, I see the sun rise and set. How can that be if it's just going round in a circle? Well, that's perspective again. If you actually see video of the sun coming up and going down, many times you'll see that the sun starts off as it's coming up very, very tiny, and it gets bigger as it gets closer to midday and then gets smaller again. It's literally that effect of perspective, you know, with some things above you, like the ceiling in a hallway, yeah, as it goes further away, it will seem to sink down towards the horizon until it disappears beyond the limit of your sight. And that's all you're seeing. You're seeing literally the sun circling overhead, but seeming to set.
Here's the first test of a sun moving over a flat surface, and with no atmospheric magnification, it does what we might expect it would. It gets smaller as it goes away from us. Alright, now let's see what happens when we add in our atmospheric magnification. Again, water and refraction. Water causes magnification and refraction, right? So let's bring the sun back. Oh, check this out. Refraction bends the light downward. It made the sun set on a parallel surface, as it was moving parallel, the same height, the whole way over a flat surface.
Number 8. The Coriolis effect means freely moving things like cannonballs or hurricane winds are deflected to the right, but only if you're north of the equator. If you're south of the equator, they're deflected left. Number 7. Triangles. If you walk 10,000 kilometers straight along the Earth's surface, turn 90 degrees to your right, walk 10,000 kilometers more, turn right again, and walk another 10,000 kilometers, you'll be back to where you started, having successfully made a triangle with 3 90-degree angles. Number 6. The sun, in general, gets lower and lower in the sky as you travel away from the equator, and you can use this to directly measure the Earth's curvature. Pick 2 places a few hundred miles directly north and south of each other, and at noon measure the shadows cast by a vertical meter stick at each location. You can use the shadow lengths to figure out the angle between the sticks, and once you add in how far apart they are, you can calculate the Earth's curvature.
The same phenomenon Eratosthenes measured could be explained by a flat Earth if the sun were only a few thousand miles away and 32 miles across. The math would work out the same.
Number 5. The stars at night change as you go north or south. For example, Orion is upside down if you're in Australia. Number 4. Ferdinand Magellan, and many people afterwards, circumnavigated the Earth. That means he left headed west, continued going west, and came back to where he started, still going west. Actually, Magellan was dead, but one of his ships, led by Juan Sebastian Elcano, finished the journey. If you head west and circumnavigate the Earth yourself, you'll be able to tell because you'll observe one fewer sunrise than everyone who stays at home. Ferdinand Magellan, and many people afterwards, circumnavigated the Earth. That means he left headed west, continued going west, and came back to where he started, still going west. Number 3. The horizon. Ships on the ocean or tall Chicago buildings viewed over Lake Michigan disappear bottom first. The simple fact is, if the Earth were flat, there wouldn't be a horizon beyond which things could disappear, so from across Lake Michigan you'd be able to see all of Chicago, as well as the Rocky Mountains.
And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
That we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
It was on CNN, it's true. I seen it on Fox. It's real. It's bullshit!
Number 2. During a lunar eclipse, the shadow of the Earth on the moon is curved.
If you've ever looked at the consistency of what we've been told to be moon rocks, you will realize quickly that the surface of said moon rock hasn't the reflective capacity to accomplish such a feat of reflecting light from the sun, let alone reflecting light from 93 million miles away. On January 31st, Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, California, did a complete recording of the lunar eclipse going through all its phases. Then they compressed it into a 60-second time lapse. Rather impressive. But towards the end, you'll see that the moon goes over the horizon at an angle. While you're watching the video, for some reason or another, they uploaded it as if you were watching the video straight up. But once it gets over to the horizon, you realize that you were supposed to be watching it like this.
And to the west, we have the moon in a total lunar eclipse. It's blood red. See that? So how can there be a lunar eclipse? How can the Earth be causing that when the sun is up over here? See that? The sunrise. See how it's light over there? That's the sun. So wait, if the sun lights up over here, how can it be going down and around the Earth to then block the moon? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Come on, people. That just seriously debunks the whole heliocentric model right here. Right here.
If I have told you earthly things, and you believe not, how shall you believe if I tell you of heavenly things?
And number 1. We know the Earth is round because we have photographic evidence. And number 1. We know the Earth is round because we have photographic evidence.
Here they are hurling through space on a molten rock at 67,000 miles an hour, and the only thing that keeps them from flying out of their shoes is their misplaced faith in gravity.
Their misplaced faith in gravity. Their misplaced faith in gravity.
They manipulate our history books. The history books are not true. It's a lie. That's right, Michael. The history books are lying. That's right. You need to know that. You must know that.
This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Just rotate it.
So it's actually floating above the surface.
Yeah, it's not floating, it's locked above the surface.
You think that's air you're breathing now? You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
Welcome to the real world.
If you take a step back and look at the Earth, that sucker is round as you're gonna get. So it's not actually a sphere, it's like pear-shaped. Pear-shaped.
Is a sphere. So people have known that the Earth is spherical for thousands of years. It's not okay to say that the Earth is flat. This is some sort of strange denial. I don't know where it comes from. And it's something where I keep getting this question. We really need to put this question to bed because we've known the Earth is a sphere for a long time.
Look at pictures from space where you see the Earth as a sphere. Those pictures are not fake. The Earth isn't quite a sphere. It's a little its spin is a little stretched it, made it slightly oblate. The Earth is a sphere, but the Earth isn't quite a sphere. That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.
I'm skeptical. I'm very skeptical, but I have an open mind. You see, I'm pretty unique in the respect that I actually will challenge my own belief system, challenge my own worldview, and I'm not afraid to do that. Many Americans are. They just have gut, instinctual, emotional responses, and if it doesn't go with their familiar narrative of how they think the world's supposed to work, they ridicule, they laugh, they engage themselves in groupthink. They are afraid to question their current reality.
Realize that we've been lied to about everything when it comes to space.
People wonder why I don't trust NASA. That's why I don't trust NASA. Everybody's trying to show you stuff from space and you keep rejecting it. This is why I reject it. These guys are liars.
NASA, we're coming for you. For 60 years, you've been faking space. There are no spheres in the heavens. The experts have devised them in the imagination so it was easier to understand their movements. So what's that mean? Well, it means stars are not distant. Guilty of a cover-up the likes of which has never been seen in human history. Everything, and I mean everything that we were taught about space, about the planets, about the orbits is a hoax. It's a lie. I means our entire idea of the cosmos isn't just wrong, it's very wrong. Astronomically wrong. So, any scientists, any physicists out there going to do anything? Or is the scientific community just going to sit there and do nothing? You guys are really just making it harder for the truth to come out by protecting these frauds and the liars that deceived all of us.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually. We only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. The moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to.
And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here.
A journey to another planet, a manned mission to Mars.
I should tell you that the first mission is scheduled to land on Mars on July the 4th, 1997, Independence Day.
We will undertake extended human missions to the moon as early as 2015, with the goal of living and working there for increasingly extended periods of time. Human missions to Mars and to worlds beyond.
But I just have to say, pretty bluntly here, we've been there before. There's a lot more of space to explore and a lot more to learn when we do. Now, last month we launched a new spacecraft as part of a re-energized space program that will send American astronauts to Mars.
We will establish a foundation for an eventual mission to Mars and perhaps someday to many worlds beyond. If we dare to dream big, and that's what our country is doing again. We're dreaming big.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
The moon is supposedly 238,000 miles away. It's noticeably much closer. The sun, too. Which is why on a flat Earth the sun is able to set due to perspective. On the flat plane, it's closer, it's smaller, so the further it travels away from you, it appears to go down. It's far enough away to where you can't see the light.
When we have hot spots proving locality, that it can't be 93 million miles away.
We are looking at a very local sun.
If your face is the brilliant sun,
thank you.
And this is Earth, and the moon is over here, the sun is always casting Earth's shadow into space. So the moon occasionally passes through that shadow. And if you see the shape of Earth's shadow on the moon, it is always round. Always round.
One flat disk moving across another flat disk. As the circular shadow moves along the moon, it maintains its circular shape the whole way at the same pace. The moon is not a sphere. In the made-up heliocentric lie, as the shadow moves onto a sphere, it is wrapping around its curve. Starting from the outer edge and moving towards the middle, the shadow takes on the spherical contour and bends upward at its height, then falls backwards in a barrel-distorted manner.
We've been programmed and indoctrinated to believe in this round, spinning ball Earth flying through space. If you watch movies, you'll start to notice all the time you're seeing this right in your face. If you think about it, you were shown the globe and taught, before you can even think for yourself or even barely walk, you were taught the globe model. This stuff is imprinted in our minds, and we grow up and it's hard to let go. The definition of a fisheye lens is an ultra-wide-angle lens that produces strong visual distortion to create a wide, panoramic, or hemispherical image.
Whenever you start to tilt it upwards or downwards, that's where you get the curvature distortion. So if you tilt the lens upwards in relationship to the horizon, it's going to kind of curve up and create a bowl type effect. If you tilt it downward, it's going to create a sphere or a kind of an orb type effect.
We can see the curve there, but if that's the curve of the Earth,
and it's not very big. You'll get the video yourself, have a look for yourself. It's 127,000 feet, and it's a complete. But how we get from that to this curve, I have no idea. I do know it's spiral lens distortion, and they're trying to deceive everybody.
Besides Hollywood movies and TV shows, these wide-angle camera lenses are the only reason you'll ever witness curvature. It's the very reason why most people believe they have seen curvature. Because at 120,000 plus feet, there is no curvature when you use a normal lens that's not distorted.
It's 2018. If you don't know that the Earth is not a giant spinning ball, then you are either holding yourself back on purpose or you're a shill.
To all those of you who can't possibly imagine a deception so large, it's time to realize that this isn't a conspiracy anymore. You just need to do the research, and you'll see that we don't and can't live on a spinning ball in space. Period. Math is not reality.
Pilot is flying around the curve of the Earth, then he should be dipping the nose down. Every 5 minutes he should be dipping the nose down to stay around the curve. That's absolute proof that a plane flies over a flat surface rather than a curved one.
Earth doesn't move.
If you look into the experiments to prove that the Earth is spinning, all of them fail.
We have been led to believe that the sun goes down below a horizon as we roll away from it on our spinning ball Earth. When we allow ourselves to question, challenge, or even try to confirm our beliefs with real-life observations, we allow ourselves to see what we really see, even if we cannot understand it. And perhaps we are not supposed to understand it. And that is the point of watching a sun travel away from us, getting smaller and smaller, and becoming a speck on the horizon, beyond the band of convergence. The sun appears to be exactly where we see it.
Forget it, Bart. It's so bright out you can't see anything in the sky except the Fox satellite.
Now, I did not say that little lights can't go across the sky. They exist. I said orbiting metal expensive satellites don't exist. It's a scam on you and on me. Go ahead and try and prove satellites exist. You won't and you can't.
What we're calling satellite communication is landline communication. Most of the world's communication systems are land-based. That is a fact. And that shouldn't be a fact if satellites are real, okay? None of the stuff we use in our world today require the use of a satellite, all right? Keyword, ground-based. I know that this satellite program is straight bogus and that the billions of money that they're getting from us in taxes is being used to turn around and deceive us. Why you keep building these towers if we're paying for satellites? Any way they could exist is to hover above a certain height above the flat plane Earth and they would be stationary.
Captain thinks the world is around, see? But we all know it's a flat, right?
Of course it's flat. Sure, I know the world is flat.
Well, so do I. Everybody knows that.
Good, good. Then you're on our side. We're going to take over the boat, throw Columbus in chains, and head for home.
Good idea.
The words Google Flat Earth were found carved into the riverside hill in letters that were 10 feet long.
The world is flat?
The world is flat.
Not debatable, it's flat.
the world is flat.
The Earth 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 is flat.
Whoa, it's flat.
The world is flat like a son of a bitch.
You're giving us a lot to process.
True or false? The Earth is round. False. Can you please explain your answer?
It hasn't been proven.
No, why do you believe you live on a globe? What was your reason?
Yes, because I've been told. That's right, okay.
Prove it without using NASA or any other space agency.
The Earth is flat. I don't see any curvature. Curvature. I mean, it's definitely not curving down. If anything, the horizon is rising to meet our eye line.
This is a group of social criminals, these people in the space program. Nassholes, I call them. I have a very low tolerance level for stupid bullshit. Every one of those items is provably untrue at one level or another, but we believe them because they're pounded into our heads from the time we're children. That's what they do with that kind of stuff. They put it in the heads of kids. They pound it in there because they know kids are too young to be able to mount a sophisticated argument against these kind of ideas. And so kids, and up to a certain age, by the way, kids are going to believe everything a grown-up tells them, everything. So kids never learn to question things. Nobody questions things in this country anymore. Nobody questions things. Why? People are too fat and happy. People are way too fucking prosperous for their own good. Everyone's got a cell phone that'll make pancakes and rub their balls. Americans have been silenced, bought off and silenced by gizmos and toys. And as a result, no one's ever learned to question things. Kids who want to learn to read are going to learn to read. Much more important to teach children to question what they read.
There's not one authentic picture of this oblate, pear-shaped spinning ball that they claim we live on. I'm sorry to tell you, the only thing that's been to space is your imagination. There is no such thing as space. For thousands of years, all ancient civilizations knew the Earth was flat. Until 500 years ago, they took the Word of God and they turned it upside down. They said, no, we revolve around the sun. The sun's in the middle, and we're spinning through space and wobbling with the sun at over 600,000 miles per hour. When an organization of pseudoscientists tell me to go completely against what all my senses tell me, that we're stationary and flat, I see it's flat. It's immovable. When I'll go outside, when I send a camera up without GoPro or fisheye lens, when I send a balloon up 100,000 feet and it shows the horizon flat, I can't go against that. When I see skylines 60 to 100 miles away, when spherical geometry says they should be behind the curve, all this stuff isn't adding up.
comes from Joshua Nowicki. And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I say, continue to believe pathological liars and you're an idiot.
By the way, how much money is being spent on space? You should emblazon this in your head. Here it goes. This is the pie chart. $330 billion a year is spent on space. Spent on space. Spent on space. Spent on space.
When you're discussing things as controversial as some of the things that we discuss here on this channel and elsewhere and that we think about on a regular basis, just by the nature of the thing, I mean, once you realize that you've been lied to since the beginning and that the whole thing is a facade, this political theater that we like to play where choose between left or right, red or blue, one or two, basically, do you want to get stabbed by the knife or shot by the gun? Once you've seen those for what they are, you can't unsee them. You can't take those shades off. So there is something that you will consider every day for the rest of your life. And when you discuss these things with people who perhaps haven't been previously exposed to these ideas or have a few times and just haven't gone on to look at them, then you're gonna get the same gut instinctual reaction. Well, it would almost be instinctual if not for the fact that it has been placed there successfully over generations and generations of social conditioning. And the one question that you get reoccurring in a lot of these instances, especially when you're discussing something like the flat earth, is why does it matter? Why does it affect me if the earth is not the shape that we were told it was? And of course, if you're looking at it from a surface level, then you could kind of relate to that point of view, where it's like, yeah, why does it matter? The earth could be a triangle, it could be a pyramid. Why does it affect my day-to-day life? But I feel like when you come with these kind of ideas or these kind of questions, it just shows that you're not thinking deeper than that. You're not considering the implications of this. I mean, they're huge. This is why I push flat earth over a whole bunch of other topics. I cover loads of topics on this channel, but I do talk a lot about flat earth because to wake people up to flat earth is a huge thing, because it shows, or to the right mind, it shows without a doubt that there are not multiple conspiracies. There is not a multitude of conspiracies organized by all different kinds of people, at least when we're talking about from the world standpoint. There is one conspiracy with multiple facets that has been controlling the world for a long period of time. And once you show people that, hey, the world is flat, everything's been a lie, they'll start to see that. And say that's not enough for you. Say you don't care about anything that's going on in the world. You just want to get on with your life. You got a job, you got a wife, you got kids. You just want to get on with life. What does flat earth have to do with it? Well, think of your kids. Think about what happened to you. You put them through the education system that you also were a part of, which is nothing but the indoctrination system that is lying to you and continuing to push lies that they know are lies. The teachers don't, of course. They were brought up in the same system. But they're lies. They're spreading lies. They're spreading garbage. The whole education system is part of the conspiracy. It's another facet of this conspiracy because they're teaching you proven lies. Facts. Alternative facts, if you will. That are, of course, the mainstream view. So when you say flat earth doesn't matter, then you're saying, hey, it doesn't matter if they lied to my kids. It doesn't matter that they lied to me. It doesn't matter if they lied to my children's children. Because who cares, right? And say, hey, you know what? I don't care about my kids' education. In fact, I'm not going to have kids, and I don't care that I was lied to. Who cares about me, right? Well, what does that say about your media? That obviously push all of this space, push everything NASA does, push everything SpaceX do. They tell you, oh, look, an asteroid is coming. Oh, a comet's in the sky. Oh, look, this eclipse is happening. Oh, look, your media is a lie. And wait, if your education and your media is a lie, then surely there's some sort of connection between who's funding these two organizations. Oh, but education is a public thing, as the government's funding that. Well, trace the roots back, you know? Have a look a little deeper. This is what Flat Earth is going to make you do on everything. Can you accept anything ever again that you were told as fact before checking, if you know that you have been told a lie on this astronomical, excuse the word for want of a better word, scale. Now put education, media, politics aside, right? What does it do psychologically to believe in the heliocentric model? What does it do to your worldview, whether you consciously realize it or not? Whether it's just looming in your subconscious or you know that's the fact. What is it doing psychologically? Why is there so much chaos, confusion, depression in the world today? Well, your world is spinning. And I know that sounds like, oh yeah, of course the earth is spinning, but you're just putting two. No, people don't understand the power of language and the power of suggestion. Your earth is spinning. Your world is spinning. In nothing. In a pocket of blackness. This is a kind of thought that will subconsciously cause a psychological devolution in people. Where nothing matters. Intrinsically, nothing matters because everything came from nothing and nothing will be after this. And nothing is outside of this besides more spinning dead rocks. Dead, vacuous space where nothing can survive. It's all a system put in place to devalue you as a human being. To devalue what you represent in this world. Your impact in this world. Because we all have one. We all can have one if we choose to. I mean, we don't all have one. That's for sure. But we can all make one. If we choose to. We just have to take those steps. And the first step is to think for yourself. Something that everyone thinks they do that a very small percentage of those actually do.
Everyone, please stop what you're doing and listen. This is not a drill.
What's the most resilient parasite? An idea. A single idea from the human mind can build cities. An idea can transform the world and rewrite all the rules. Which is why I have to steal it. He's hiding something, and we need to find out what that is.
We gotta break out of here. Give him the kick.
This was not a part of the plan! Wake me up! Wake me up!
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think.
As the galaxies go whizzing by over the glass domed ceiling. Now tell me that does work for you.
If it's true, does it change how I live my life? This is something that is not an easy answer because of the magnitude of what we're talking about here. How it will change your life, first of all, when you understand it, is dramatic, to say the least. Will it change you from having to go to your job every day and the things that you typically do every day? No. But when this knowledge becomes more mainstream and these agencies are starting to be held accountable, and you understand that they're all participating in this, not just the United States government, not just NASA, but China, Russia, India, all of them have space programs. They all have the same symbolism. They're all doing the exact same thing to their citizenry. And the first thing you have to understand about this is that the deception goes all the way to the top. And when I say all the way to the top, you have to kind of get rid of the notion that the people at the very highest levels are working together. Why would they do this? Why are they trying to hide the fact that we are on an infinite plane or on a flat Earth rather than a ball? Well, if you isolate people into the idea that they're on a blue marble that's in the middle of a universe that is really insignificant, and there's thousands or millions and billions of other worlds and possibly other civilizations, that makes most people think that we are insignificant and that we did actually come about as some sort of an accident. Now, when people believe that, their minds are much more malleable into being given the idea that there is no God, there is no creator. And because of that, that also gives the controllers this fertile soil to build other deceptions on.
Why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
It's about total control, mental, physical, spiritual, every way, shape, form possible.
You have to remember how big of a conspiracy this is. This isn't talking about just the JFK thing, or isn't talking about just 9/11. It's on an umbrella kind of system to where it is the biggest deception that there is. It actually exposes every other deception, and nothing else brings down the power of the elite, because it really exposes education, science, the economy, television, museums, universities. Think of all the things that have been fooled. I feel worse for the people that are out there building satellites, the people that are out there actually working for these space agencies, the people out there teaching in schools as professors, because they would all come to the conclusion eventually, once this gets out, that they've all been contributing to the lie.
Why do you believe what you believe? Prove it without using NASA or any other space agency, the government or military of any country in the world. Why would I say that? NASA has been proven to be liars time and time again. I could spend a whole weekend here showing you the lies of NASA. How many of you believe your government is 100% honest and can be trustworthy? And how many of you know the military answers to their government? Okay, so if those three sources are all proven liars, why would you trust them? Fool me once, right? Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I say, continue to believe pathological liars and you're an idiot. But that's what we've all done. And so, I look at these stuff, we've all seen the textbooks, we've all seen the videos and movies and all these things, and there's so much of it. Do you know what the budget NASA has? You know how much they get? How much money they get? Have you seen the movie Gravity? Okay. That's made for about $100 million, give or take. And if you saw the movie Gravity, that was pretty impressive. I saw it on IMAX, big screen, like, wow. I mean, I felt like I was with Sandra Bullock flying around in space, freaking out myself. Okay, this is what they're able to do with $100 million. What are you able to do with tens of billions of dollars a year since the 60s?
Now, in my opinion, we're being lied to not only about the shape of the Earth, we're being lied to about the very nature of reality itself. In 1954, Admiral Richard Byrd, a highly decorated naval officer, conducted an interview where he alluded to the idea that there may very well be land beyond the poles.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
We don't know. That's the big problem. We don't know where we are, okay? That's what we're all trying to figure out here. But there is the Antarctic Treaty where, 53 or so nations have signed saying that no one's going to lay claim to Antarctica and that there are massive restrictions for travel there. You can't just get up and go to Antarctica on your own. You know, you have to have a tour guide with you, and there are only certain entry points, and there are limits on where you can go search.
Personally, I think the unconquered south face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000-foot sheer wall of ice, but that's never stopped me before.
Welcome.
No, I just want to stand on top of the wall and piss off the edge of the world.
What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Yeah, that's their favorite line. Got a lot of people, what difference does it make? You can't figure out what difference it makes? If you can't figure out what difference it makes that the people running your world are lying to you over and over your whole life, if you can't figure out that someone lying to you is trying to control you, suppressing of information, of knowledge is control. Deception of information and knowledge is a form of control. So what difference does it make? It makes a big difference, because once they start omitting information or lying about information about where you live, they're doing it to control you, period. Why am I having to explain this to critical thinkers in the truth movement? The way you control billions of people is to keep them divided and fighting each other. Flat Earth is not a psyop. Flat Earth destroys the psyop. Every psyop that's been used to control us for as long as they've known about it. So this system has been in power and control for hundreds of years, ever since they convinced the rest of the world that they didn't know where they live. It created this fantastical scenario to make people feel insignificant and to follow those that appear to know better. Why is the flat earth so important? Because it shows the deception. And if everybody would just come together and demand answers, they would be in checkmate. They would not know what to do.
Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I believe that's why we have so many who are indoctrinated to still believe and fight so hard for the heliocentric model. The reason being is because we've been taught the globe model since before we had the ability to think for ourselves. Think about that. Before you could think for yourself, before you could form rational thought, you've been taught that you live on a spinning ball, although your five senses tell you something totally different. Our senses tell us that the earth is flat and stationary, that the sun and moon and the stars rotate above us just as we see, that they make their annual cycles in such a way that we can calculate days, months, and years of the passage of time, just like in Scripture. The earth in itself works like a well-designed timepiece, and we all know that any timepiece that we can think of has a designer. What if the lie is to hide the existence of that designer? What if they're lying to us about this because they're hiding God?
Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this, see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm blind. But I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. Take a look in the mirror, what do you see? it clear why you deceive in what you believe. 'Cause I'm only human after all. You're only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. Some people got the real problem. Some people out of love. Some people think I can solve them. Lord heavens above, I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. Don't ask my opinion, don't ask me to lie. Beg for forgiveness, I'm making you cry. I'm making you cry. 'Cause I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. Oh, some people got the real problems. Some people out of love. Some people think I can solve them. Lord heavens above, I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. I'm only human, I make mistakes. I'm only human, it's all it takes to put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. I'm no prophet or Messiah. Should go looking somewhere higher. I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. I'm only human, I do what I can. I'm just a man, I do what I can. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame